Alright, so here we're taking a look at Transformers Combiner Wars Ultra Magnus. Now I really love Ultra Magnus as a character, and this figure is actually pretty good. I do have some minor nitpicks on some of the directions they chose with it, but that's coming from me as a fan and less of anything that you guys should use to determine if you want to pick this guy up or not. I will say also that he is a very nice loving homage to Ultra Magnus visually. You have the nice red, the silver, the white, the blue. It's almost kind of like the same type of blue plastic color that they used for the original one. If you guys have seen that guy, then you know he has all these iconic staples. The really tall shoulders, the shoulder-mounted missile launchers. Now, those missile launchers from the G1 toy could actually fire their missile, and you only had one, but this one you get two and they're molded into place. But that's kind of goes with a gimmick that for his weapons that I actually don't mind. I'll get into the weapon gimmick a little bit later. I love the detailing on this guy too. It's not as ingrained like here on the legs or anything else right here for the arms like you see with some of the other figures. I also like this chest right here. It almost kind of reminds me of a face, something you'd see out of Gurren Lagann. Right here on the legs though, you get a nice bit of paneling right here. You can kind of see a little ladder right there and a little door for the humans to walk into. This works really well for in robot mode when he's supposed to get giant, but in his vehicle mode it just seems a little bit silly and odd. I'll point that out later. Now, as I said, he does have, for his weapons, he has two laser pistols, one that could fit in either hand. You get this one right over here. It grips onto it. I'll move this one over here, and then you can grip into this one so you can actually dual-wield pistol. Dang it. You can dual-wield pistols if he really wants to. Now, even though this one just fell out right now, this gun is the one that really wants to not stay into place as well as this one. Like, once you get a good grip on it, he will hold them very well. His shoulders are also able to, or his shoulder launchers, missile launchers are able to pop off as well. And you actually combine them all together with his gun. You can actually stick this one right on here onto this gun. This one, it doesn't matter if you have the missiles up, down, back. I just kind of like to have them pointing down. And then you attach, I almost wanted to fall back there. You can attach him right down here, and here he has his Magnus hammer. Ever since Transformers Animated, they've decided to start sticking Ultra Magnus's or use his melee weapon as a hammer. If you remember that cartoon, you can all this electrical lightning would shoot out and you'd take out tons of enemies, almost kind of like Thor's hammer. And then in Transformers Prime, he was given one of the hammers of the Primes. I can't remember. The Forge of Solus Prime, was it? I think that's right. And so, yeah, they just decided to carry that over to this new Ultra Magnus, which I really don't mind. I mean, Prime has his giant sword and his axe. A few other characters have some grappling hooks, buzzsaws. I really kind of like the idea that Magnus has this giant hammer. Now, the only downside is that when it's like this, he doesn't have an actual pistol that he could shoot with, and he can only hold it from this part right here in his hand. You can see even right there, it kind of locks into the place of his shoulder guard right here. I guess you can pop the gun off right here, and he just has a smaller little hammer, and then you can put the gun right back in his hand so he can dual wield a hammer and a gun. So yeah, I guess that could work. Now, as far as his articulation goes, his head can move side to side. It can't move up and down, and that's part of a gimmick that they have with this guy. That's the thing I really question. I'll get into that in a little bit. His arms are able to move up and down, and he also has this, his arms are able to move out like this, and there's a little hinge right here, but even when his shoulder missile launchers are right there, you can still move them out of the way so you get a nice range of movement. As you can also see, he has a bicep swivel, an elbow joint, and as we saw earlier, finger articulation. He doesn't have any waist articulation per se, but he does have a good tight joints for his hips. It's really tight ratcheting them around. So if you get this guy into some really dynamic poses, he's probably going to stay that way. Has a little bit of a thigh swivel. I need to get these things all confused all around. A knee bend right here, and even though it's part of his transformation, you can kind of count this as a little bit of an ankle bend too, so he could really move his leg back like he's really ready to step, or kind of having to brace himself to shoot whatever he's going to be taking down, or maybe he has to hold something back from falling. Who knows? However you want to pose this guy yourselves. Now, to the thing that I kind of question why they did this, and yeah, anyways, you can pull his chest down like so, move his head up, revealing a little mini-con that actually sits in the cockpit of his chest. I don't know if this harkens back to the idea that this main body was actually just a power armor that he drives or pilots around in, and that it was originally something that was made for Optimus Prime, but Ultra Magnus got injured, and he said, "Oh, you use it, Magnus. I don't really need it right now." And Ultra Magnus stayed in it all the time. And you can see there's a little, all these little paneling right in there for like a cockpit and other stuff. And this guy actually pops right out. And you can see a little seat right there, little handles that his arms can fit into. And he has his own little range of articulation too. His arms are able to move up and down, side to side, a little bit of knee bend, hip rotation. It's just, I don't really like the idea that maybe this is actually Ultra Magnus, that he's really just this tiny little mini-con that pilots this big thing. I always like the idea that underneath this armor, he looks exactly like Prime. Like, this is the second guy that Alpha Trion may have built, and so he has the same type of body as Optimus Prime. That's the one thing that I really am kind of down or annoyed with on this guy. So it's, yeah, as a fan, I just don't really like the idea that it's a mini-con in here. But overall, if you're able to have him in there or just have him by himself and can pretend, he still looks pretty cool. There's not much else to say about the body of him, so let's actually start transforming both of these guys. Alright, now to transform this little guy is actually pretty simple. We're gonna need to move his chest forward though, and it kind of, you can see a little bit of a hinge right there that starts to fold down and fold back up. There we go, get everything into place. I'm gonna lock his arms right here. You can see a little slot right there that's gonna form onto these little pegs right here. Go, then just move his legs around, and there you go. He forms this tiny little hover car. There's no little wheels on it. It looks very futuristic, so I'm assuming it's a hover car. And it kind of just sits there. It doesn't really do anything else after this, and yeah, it's a very simple transformation. Alright, now to transform Ultra Magnus, we're going to start off by getting his head out of the way. I'm going to move his chest forward and open up the little cockpit to his robot motor where the little mini-con sits, and just slide his head all the way down in here and then just close it back up. There you go, it's out of the way. Next up, we're I'm going to move his arms back like this because we need to pop or fold the cab part up like this, then pop it back like so, so it unlocks and we can actually slide it up, and then rotate this all the way around. It's going to be the cab part of his car mode. Okay, and then I'm just going to leave this chest part up here real quick because it kind of gets in the way for some of the other transformations, but we'll put it down later. I'm going to then fold these parts out like this, flip them around and move the red pieces back here so we can actually slide the side parts of his legs forward. Now there's a little slot right back here that you can see, and there's a little tab right in here. This is actually going to fold right into, snap right in there. It doesn't want to hold it all that well, but we're going to do another transformation that'll secure it up a little bit later. Next up, I'm going to actually take his feet, move those all the way back like so. Get those up and out of the way. There you go. Then we're going to take his hips and move them all the way up. All right, there you go. And then we're going to need to move these parts, snap his legs together. There's two little pieces right in there that are actually going to sandwich together really nicely. And then we're going to want to take his chest part right here and then fold that down into here. You can kind of see that there's a little spot right there that this is just going to slide right on over on either side, and that's going to help secure it into place. Next up, we're going to actually take these red things, fold them out, the little red wings or whatever, move them over the side and get them right into place right there. Last but not least, we're going to move on to his arms. I'm hoping I'm getting all this stuff into camera. I'm going to slide these down and out like so. And then next we're going to take his forearm guards right here and then fold them out and up like this. Now you got to be careful with doing this because you might want to twist it or bend it, and mine's already starting to get a little loose from that, so I'm going to kind of be careful on how I transform these parts. It might be something that will break over time if you do it the wrong way too much. Alright, next up we're going to actually then take his shoulders, rotate them around, and you can see that there's little pegs on either side that are going to slide right into each other on that side, and do the same thing for these back arms right here. There we go. Now we're going to take these little pegs right here and fold them right, or get them right into these little slots right there. And there you go. Ultra Magnus is now in his robot vehicle mode. You can also take either of the missile launchers. Gonna probably rotate the camera down a little bit. Attach them to the front up here if you wanted to. I'm just gonna put one right there. Put one on the other side. Then you could either also take the guns, place them right here, or you can actually put them back here as well on either side. There's also a little hole down here, so if you wanted to attach them a little bit lower, put the missile launchers back there as well, you can. Now, as I talked about earlier, how I really like the little door right here for where the humans are supposed to go, and it looks really nice in his robot mode. It just kind of looks a little bit silly here in his vehicle mode, especially considering that the fact that they have it right here on the front of his cab. I hope I got that in camera right there. There's the little hole. Yeah, if that's the size of a human, then this guy's at least probably 3 or 4 stories tall, and considering that this is the size of a normal car, yeah, he's going to be taking up at least probably 3 lanes on any highway. Yeah, it's just kind of comical to me. It's a little bit lost here on just how big he is. Now, 2 nitpicks I have with him in his vehicle mode is, one, this is more of a fan thing, is I wish that this actually came off or just fully attached and wasn't always just screwed right on in there. And I wish that it did turn into its own individual robot rather than some sort of cockpit that this little guy drives into. I just liked him better as a version of Prime, and it would have been cool if they did that. The next issue is with this little guy himself, in the fact that there's no real way to attach him to the this giant vehicle. I've tried many different ways. I've tried attaching it right here. You would think that maybe it fits right in there. Maybe these little tiny grooves on the back can slide right into place there, and he would lock into place. But no, there's really nothing. You just kind of have to have him off to the side, and always remember that you have him. This is one of my biggest nitpicks with a lot of the G1 toys, is that there was no place to put some of the weapons for when they were in their vehicle mode, or properly put them. Anyways, and stuff like this that is small can get easily lost, and I thought they would have fixed this by now, but no, just a little extra hole or some little peg or something that he could have just snapped onto. There's like nothing. I've been all over this guy. I've been all over the place. I've tried looking online, and I haven't come across anything just yet that would solve this problem, so that's a little bit of a disappointment with me. Now, one other cool thing though that they were able to do is actually make him in scale with some of the other car vehicles. Now here it actually makes more sense. Like, this seems more like a little, well, he does seem kind of still undersized now compared to these cars, but you can actually fold some, or I guess roll them right up here on the back and put ultramagnet or Ironhide up here, and he actually acts as a car transport like his original G1 version did. So that is actually something that I think is really cool that they incorporated. Yes, it is a Decepticon in here. I don't have any of the Autobot remolds of these guys to actually place for him to carry around, so just forgive that if you will. But yeah, I think he's actually a pretty cool figure, those minor fan nitpicks aside, and if you decide to want to pick him up, I think he's definitely still worth it to add to your collection. Once again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you've seen today, please help me out by sharing, liking, or even subscribing. Comments and advice are also appreciated. Who knows, something you suggest may appear on the show in the future.